later find the conversation, the correlation between historical price and charts movements. And after that, we are planning to record the what types of data was efficient and sufficient, and what type of data was not useful at all, and then we can work and find like a general, I'd say, types of data that we need. Should it be graphs or other data, and make it so that it will be like a common analysis for each Uniswap, for each DeFi coin. So now, as I said, we are in process of pulling up the data and working with it, just looking at it and seeing what we can do right now and what is possible to do with it right now. And Iran will follow up saying what we are in process of doing. You're muted, Iran.
Apologize. This is the Python GraphQL implementation right now I'm working on. So right now I've already have done a few functions and trying to write more functions into into Python. And the last one is just a sample GraphQL query for Uniswap. And right now I'm just parsing the string to the query, but afterwards I'll make it more dynamic, and so we can just scale it up and just put it all into definitions. So the other members just can pip install the package and just do queries from there, and just get all our data. So in that sense, we don't need the CSV file. So that's the plan. For next page, please. So when we are researching and trying to play with GraphQL, for example, there are several questions that we need to tackle first. One of the questions is that we really want to track or monitor the large accounts. For example, this is just a really, I assume it would be a large account. It has like 14 trillion dollars in the account. So, and I also put up a graph. This is an Etherscan. Next slide. This is an Etherscan, and just for a first initial overview of this account. But what we are trying to do is trying to implement this in our Python. So it's more dynamic, and we don't have to input the, to look for the specific accounts every time. So it can automatically monitor any large account or any large transactions. Hopefully we can get that done in Python. So we'll need your opinions or suggestions as well for this one. Next slide, please. For analysis, we also did a preliminary time series analysis on the data, but we haven't found a very good model that can model the price per se. So the next thing we need to do is to further clean the data, because right now there are many other correlations, and it's not that stationary, especially because we don't have too much information on the price, and the price is not, well, the data for the price isn't large enough so that we can do a rolling time window that's consistent over different epoch. And also we need to analyze the correlation function. And I guess the question here to be answered that we are we were struggling in the first place is that should we focus on a more traditional financial analysis approach, or the some approaches that are relying more on the alternative data set? Because apparently right now in Uniswap, for example, we have a lot of information that cannot be obtained on the traditional equity market, but we can get that information in DeFi space. So that's really advantage. And we're trying to think of new ways to take advantage of the new information to help the analysis. That's briefly what we have for now. So
I think that's it.
Yeah. Afterwards, we'll. Did I interrupt?
Good afternoon or good morning.
Sorry?
Professor Zoro came in.
Hi, Professor Aro.
Hi.
Okay, so as usual, we are open to questions. And did you find something you can add towards our, future plans?
Okay, yeah. First off, guys, you're off to a good start. You seem to understand how to tackle this, and yeah, all the pieces looking like they're coming together. One thing that I thought I might explain was that address that you had pulled up in one of the slides.
It's exchange
with
address.
So the
Etherscan address.
That one is actually the wrapped Ether address. So what happens there is people lock the Ethereum into that contract, and it gives them ERC20 tokenized Ethereum back. And so everything on Uniswap actually uses the wrapped Ethereum token, not the actual Ethereum. So all of the liquidity on Uniswap is actually locked in that contract in a sense, as well as other exchanges and other contracts or other different setups. So you can sort of you might want to ignore that one potentially, as it doesn't belong to a person. It's just people lock their Ethereum in, and it gives them the equivalent wrapped Ethereum back. Just so any contracts that are expecting an ERC20 token can now accept the Ethereum wrapped version. That's why it has a crazy balance.
Yeah. Since you bring that up, we also want to ask, like, how to, because I see it's wrapped Ether, but I don't know like the specifics. Like, how do I know doesn't belong to a person, or if it belongs to an exchange, or what are the specifics that we need to look for?
Look, will it be safe to ignore all the contracts? So by checking if something is a contract, just ignore it, because
to the most part, yes. You would miss out on the multi-signature accounts, but they tend to be cold storage and not active anyway.
Do you think of any good example that they might want to include the contract? Balance?
Actually, I was thinking that we can use it to determine the volumes, overall volumes within the exchange, if it's up or down. This is also a great indicator of outflow or inflow of coins.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, there's plenty of interesting data to get from some of these contracts, like the wrapped Ethereum balance moving up and down is an interesting data point to be monitoring.
I actually had a PowerPoint slide for Ethereum that was if you saw the graph.
Just keep in mind, just don't treat some of those accounts as special cases and not as normal users or traders. But there's definitely don't ignore them entirely, because there's definitely some insight to gain, especially in the wrapped Ethereum case.
So is there any I guess like the systemic way that we can make sure that we don't make any mistakes in this sense? Because I know like some are just
so I think what Chris was getting at, you can probably ignore most contracts. In terms of users or trying to figure out what users are doing, I would just ignore all of the contracts because
Okay.
they're not users. But there are going to be some contracts like the wrapped Ethereum one that you may want to do analytics on for different reasons, and not treat them as a user, but treat them as their own
So a good
entity.
trick might be
Oh,
ignore all the contracts and do a whitelist of the contracts that you want to include, but have a marker in the database so as you can say, I want to use all the contracts for my correlation chart, but not for making decisions on what's going on right now, for example.
Okay, that makes sense. Another question I have for Chris and Luke is the scope of our data. So do you think we should focus on only DeFi exchange data only, or do you think we should look at the whole blockchain as a whole?
Can I make a question, because I don't have your background on economics, which might also answer your own question? If you go to the correlation chart, if you share this slide with the correlation data about USD and Bitcoin, I think, or Ethereum.
I'm sorry.
Can you reshare the slideshow and go to the chart? Yeah. I have two questions on the slideshow actually.
Yeah, let me share it.
Yeah, this one. So I'm not good at economics, but by looking at the first chart, I see that the USD price is affected by the price, by the value on exchanges. Is this the price of a token or the price of the USD? As a fiat?
This is not, you're referring to the first graph or to the second one?
To the first one.
So the first graph, I should have mentioned and described all of them. So the first graph is basically showing the the volumes of inflow and outflow of Bitcoin itself on different exchanges. So let's say within this red period of time, we can see that people are withdrawing Bitcoins to their private ledger accounts. During this green period of time, people are mostly depositing Bitcoin. So they are depositing with the purpose of trading or selling, for whatever reasons. And on these red marks, I wanted to show that the Bitcoin is now withdrawn more rather than deposited, which means that people are expecting it to be the price for Bitcoin expected to be higher on the long term.
Okay.
Is it clear now, or?
Yeah, I was thinking that the price, the gray line with the price in USD.
This is not about the price at all. That's about volumes.
Yeah.
Here is the price.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, here, if you can see, you don't see the tab over here. I don't know from Zoom. The graph on the below about Ethereum, it shows the price. You see this this line, gray color shows the price, and blue color shows the volumes. And so this one, the first one, is not about price at all.
Okay.
Sorry, Chris. Some of that data would be useful to include, perhaps. For example, Ethereum volume to and from the traditional exchanges could be an indicator of it going to or from the DeFi ecosystem as well.
This is a type of data we were able to get right away because it's public and it's not necessary to extract any data to make it.
I interpreted the first graph in a different way and trying to also answer Kieran's question, but just by bringing an idea in the table which might be totally silly. would it make sense to also have the USD fiat price of the dollar, not in crypto, and to see the correlation that if the USD price, the rate goes down, then cryptos go up or something like this?
Mhm.
Oh, you mean
Yeah.
like gold
Like a
when
trend.
like when the
You mean like
interest rate for USD is going down and people invest more in crypto space?
Yeah, because in this year, we can see that the markets are being affected a lot, for example, by Elon Musk. So is that everyone during those days are moving their USDs in crypto, and this remains in the exchanges for a while, this transaction?
Yeah, you made a great point, Chris. So I would try to answer your question. So yes, there is a correlation, but the graph you are most likely referring is inflation of dollar USDT.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the more USDT is inflated, the more people are investing in crypto. That's right. But also we could have seen this pattern during the recent, how it's called in US, the supports checks, or like support business checks, when government issued checks for small businesses, for people who got affected with COVID, and they basically got some free cash on their accounts.
Mhm.
And once these checks were issued, we could see a big inflow of currency to Coinbase exchange, because this is the exchange of US citizens.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is type of correlation which is really important too. But Kieran was wondering if we should look outside the Uniswap, not just for the general purpose of Ethereum or Bitcoin prices, but for small DeFi coins too. Is it possible to trade somewhere else these DeFi coins, or is there a
I
big volumes? You see what I'm
yes,
saying?
yeah. So there's an and most of those locations, which is quite convenient, are all clones of the Uniswap protocol. So interacting with them is all the same. But there's a number of other decentralized exchanges, yes, that do have adequate liquidity that are worth looking into. So SushiSwap is one that's on both Ethereum and the Polygon network now.
Right.
There's also QuickSwap is on Polygon as well. We're also seeing a lot of, another thing that might be interesting to look into is some of the bridges that are emerging that are allowing liquidity to move from one blockchain to another without the need of a traditional exchange or intermediary handling that transaction. And so this is why you're starting to see all of these exchanges pop up on other networks now as well, because the liquidity can move from Ethereum to Polygon to Ethereum Classic to wherever. Wherever the transaction fees are less to the most part.
I feel like we need.
It's definitely worth looking into other locations. They're all using the same technology though as Uniswap, so that's why we'll just start off with Uniswap.
Yeah,
because everything else is just different API endpoints. It's the same data. It's the same smart contracts in the background running everything.
So I understand SushiSwap is initially like a fork of Uniswap. Is that still the case? Have they not updated anything?
Oh, they've done additional things on top, but the underlying actual exchange logic and contracts are still the same.
Okay, so they kind of just make the UI look better, but the tech is the same.
Yeah. They did.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they added slightly better UI. Their big main thing was they added liquidity mining, so they attracted all of the liquidity over from Uniswap to SushiSwap, because
I see. Okay.
essentially got free money for doing so.
Right.
But the actual underlying exchange tech is identical, and that's the same with QuickSwap, and Binance Chain has one as well. PancakeSwap, I think they call it.
I have a quick question to you, Luke. So you mentioned that SushiSwap is like has taken their underline from Uniswap, but at the same time, like, are they using the same processing existing contract blockchain addresses and everything.
They redeployed the contracts themselves, so they have separate liquidity. Everything's separate, but it's the exact same contract code. So the contract addresses are different.
Yeah, they have a different liquidity pool.
Different liquidity pools.
Yeah. So once we've taken into consideration Uniswap with the same technology, we can actually have an access.
Yeah,
you just pointed at different contract addresses and a different GraphQL endpoint.
Cool. Okay, understood.
And yeah.
So Luke, to follow up on that, do we need to worry about the traditional exchanges? We only look at DeFi exchanges, right?
So with the traditional ones, it might be worth looking into overall volume in and out, just to try and get an indicator of what's flowing into crypto and out of crypto, but also what's potentially flowing from the centralized exchanges into the DeFi ecosystem.
Understood.
And back. So anyone in the DeFi ecosystem, if they want to cash out to dollars or to euros, they've got to go through the traditional system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As their final exit, so or entry. So there still might be some value there. I probably wouldn't worry too much though on the actual internals of what's going on inside the traditional exchanges, because that's a bit of a black box, and
right, that makes sense.
Too much value here, anyway.
So to follow up on the, sorry, Kieran.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. To follow up on the API endpoint. So right now, if through GraphQL, we can query like Uniswap v2, v1, but they have the v3 right now. But they don't provide an API for the new contract.
V3 is tricky. So all of the other ones that are based on Uniswap are all based on V2. No one's really using V3, copying V3 because its license doesn't really allow for it yet. They've come up with this very strange semi-open source license. So everyone's using V2, which was properly open source. Although there is a lot of liquidity in the V3 contracts that it is worth monitoring. I don't know exactly what is required to get that data. I can find out and get back to you on that one.
Thank you. And going back to our discussion on the relation between USD and the crypto price, do you think what we need to explore first on the biggest liquidity, focus on the tokens that have the biggest liquidity on the crypto space or on the central exchange? Like my intuition is that the ordinary people who are getting the checks or who are getting the money on USD, they will just buy through the central exchange rather than investing in crypto space. So the correlationship we see in the price and the USD, the crypto price and the USD might be mainly coming from the central exchange.
Yeah, so this is going to depend on the currency of the token. So for the main native currencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum, that will be the case. Yes, most of that's probably going to be taking place on the centralized exchanges. But when it comes to all the tokens running on top of those networks, a lot more of that's going to be taking place in the DeFi space.
Yeah, the small market coin.
Yeah, small markets or just newer coins. And also the regulatory situation is a bit less clear with some of these new approaches. So it's harder for the more traditional exchanges to list some of the projects and things like that. So yeah, so a lot of the newer projects will, or at least initially they'll be instantly available in the DeFi space, and then perhaps later available in the centralized space. The listing process tends to be a lot slower. So DeFi space, there is no process. It's just if there's liquidity, it's ready to go. So yeah, with the main currencies, the centralized exchanges will definitely be. Yeah, like I said, if people want to buy Ethereum, they're going to go and buy it on Coinbase.
Yeah.
But if people want Badger or something, then they're going to get that on Uniswap. So after buying the Ethereum on Coinbase. So yeah, they're both. It depends on which.
So from your experience, do you see a lot of the arbitragers on the DeFi space, or they're holding for speculation? Like, in other words, they're hoping the price will go up, or because one research I read on the Uniswap website, it seems like indicating a lot of arbitragers are going into those swap contracts.
Yes. So, and this is one of the big differences between the V2 and V3 Uniswaps. Is the V2, because it was sort of all automated, you didn't place your liquidity at any particular level, you just placed it in the pool. Mm-hmm. It required very little management. You put your liquidity in the pool and you just left it.
Yeah.
And then you'd be gaining fees on trades and whatever. Right. And so that sort of free up, like you still have arbitrage stuff running and you'd be paying transaction fees and all of those trades. But you had less management on your normal liquidity. With the V3, it's all more like a bit more like a traditional exchange where you place your liquidity at a particular price or a particular level. And so you might want to constantly be repositioning that as the market changes. And so that becomes a bit more costly. So that on top of arbitrage, everything becomes a bit more costly to manage all of that. So I think you're going to see more arbitrage happening in the V2 space than the V3 space. But you're going to see a lot more normal bot action, like spread bots happening in the V3 space, if that makes sense. And we're already seeing arbitrage happening because you have a lot of different arbitrage taking place in the DeFi space. Between you have from the centralized exchanges and Uniswap, for example, people are obviously arbitraging to keep those markets somewhat in sync. And then you also have those tokens being listed on other decentralized exchanges on the same network, and then other decentralized exchanges on other networks like Polygon. And yeah, people are arbitraging all of this. So it's some of it's happening a lot faster than others. Like going across a bridge takes a little while, so that they tend to have a bit more of a delay.
Don't you think
networks.
arbitrage is dead because it's now overtaken by bots and mostly?
I mean, it's definitely all bots. But yeah, it's happening. I'm not sure to say it's dead. It's just it's definitely all automated now. But that's one of the things that I prefer about the V2 model over the V3 is it allows the normal trading to at least be a bit more balanced and playing field between bots and normal users, just because you don't have to constantly manage your position. Whereas if you constantly have to manage your position, you can't really compete with bots because they can manage it faster.
Luke and Chris, I just have a quick question. Is this type of project, I mean, you see the students are learning a lot, but I want to make sure that you guys can take advantage of this. Is this, and we could move it in that direction if need be, is this of interest to you? Are you learning new things along with them? If not, do you want to move in a certain direction? It's okay for you to, since Liz is now done, I mean, if you want to expand to new areas, that's okay as well. Just want to make sure that you guys get something out of this as well.
I'm very curious to see the outcome of this, all of the data. I think there are a lot of interesting.
Because I have new students joining in the fall. So if you think about other different type of ideas or projects or whatever you want them to work on, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, Professor Zaro, in response to your question, because I have also a concern, because from the last, the ETC1 group, they were, I don't know if we need to keep continuation from their project, or because right now it's a totally different project, and right now it's more of a computer science type of data science type of
Correct.
project.
Yes.
So
No, that's fine. I mean, the first project, the first ETC from the fall is over, right?
okay.
We're going off what Luke and Chris had recommended the beginning of the semester.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm learning a lot during that way because I haven't played with cryptocurrencies, Uniswap, etc.
Very
So
good. Okay.
it's very interesting for me. And thinking out loud, something that I had, I thought during this call is that I checked a bit what's happening, what Parasab is doing in their side. And I think, correct me, Luke, because you are more experienced on that part. I think Paraswap tries to find, analyzes what's the best path in order to get the minimum cost for the transaction. So if I want to let's say, convert big amounts like 1,000 Ethereums for wrapped Ethereum or another coin, because this requires a lot of gas cost, they split this transaction into smaller ones, and using the knowledge that you probably will collect in your project, at the end, they use some AI in order to decide how to split this on different chains and making the user to be more profitable. And until now, they achieved the use of far less cost than other Uniswap, SushiSwap, and other stuff. By using those, but split it and not in another way. I'm not good at economics, so I'm not sure if I explained this well. I will share the side of them, but I was thinking that at the end, this might be the outcome of the project, because, or an outcome, possible outcome in general. But I don't want to steer the project to that direction. I'm just thinking out loud.
No,
Chris,
we
I'm
don't.
not actually familiar
Yeah.
with Paraswap. It looks
I shared the
similar
link.
to it looks similar to 1inch. Yeah, like it's
On
so it
some
just finds you the
on some sites,
finds you the
they
best
call
route.
it number one right now.
So you were suggesting we could explore the cheapest way to trade? Is that the...
So
Did
the
I-
first part of your project is that you collect some knowledge about the network and the tokens, and you store that somewhere in database. What you will achieve with that information at the end is a second part of the project.
Yeah.
Okay. Which can be, okay, you give me a time span of 1 hour ahead, and you say, okay, if you buy some wrapped ETH, at the end of the day, you will have some profit. So you give me trading advice. Another path is that, okay, I want to trade. This is what Parasab does, I think, is that I want to trade, but I decided what I want to trade, but it is that the cost is very large for me because I have to pay the gas cost of Ethereum, which is huge. And you say, okay, if you go that way, you might win 100 euros, let's say USDs, over 1,000 USDs of movement. So that's a profit. So you have the data, you have to decide what you will do with the data, and it might be more than one thing, but this is one thing I assume.
Chris, are you saying you want us to make a automated trading system on the Paraswap because Paraswap has a very cheap gas fee?
No. This is something that you might want to do. I don't know. What I have seen is that they are able to decide how to use other stuff like Uniswap, SushiSwap, etc. And they say that if you ask to trade 10 Ethereums through Uniswap, is more expensive than doing 4 on Uniswap and 2 on SushiSwap together. This is what they do, and they do it that you put the transaction to them, and then they use Uniswap and SushiSwap, and at the end you get the outcome without you have the knowledge of how this has been split.
I see. So they trade on Uniswap and SushiSwap on your behalf, and they make the transaction cost cheaper for the user.
Yeah, because they know what's the best amount, what's the fairer amount for you to use on Uniswap, because they say above 10 it's very expensive, so use 10, make a transaction of 10, because after that the gas cost is very big.
Yes, I see where where you're going. It seems it's going to be a really large project and involving like more team members, because first of all we need to decide, like the as I understand, we need to decide what is the price movement in relationship to one trade on each swap. So basically we need to explore every exchange that we want to include into the platform and explore the price movement within the trade, and then do an optimization on the on the data, find the cheapest way, the best way to trade. Is that roughly the idea?
Yes, Professor Zoro, I'm not sure if at the end we want a deliverable project that works to ask the project, give me the best path route, or we want that they collect all the data, and then the second part might be, okay, roughly this is the idea of what we think, this is the process, this is everything. We don't have a deliverable code-wise because it requires a lot of effort and knowledge outside of our field. But this is how we glued everything together in a paper and not in the actual work.
I would agree with that. Yes, but I don't know. Maybe it's a different team that would have to do that.
Yeah, but they will glue everything together so another team can pick up and continue.
Correct. That's the idea. Yes, that's the idea of these projects. And if they want to be involved, like, well, no, Yerin is graduating. Well, no, she probably has another semester. So if she's interested, yeah, she could definitely, go on that one with some new team members.
But indeed, it's a huge project from what I understood about Parasab. It's not something easy, and
well, it could be taken on and progress through the semesters, definitely. Yeah. Can you put something to? Can you put that idea together, Chris, as a follow up, because it's definitely something we could undertake. I'm getting lots of new students.
Yeah, I will try to understand in the full extent what Parasab does and then write it down.
Okay.
But I'm trying hard to understand all the economic aspects because it's new to me also.
Okay, that's good. So at least you're learning with us, and that's great.
Yeah.
Erin, anything else?
Not really at this moment. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I guess. Thank you.
Can I make one question?
Sure.
Yes, Chris,
Yeah, go ahead.
On the Python library that you shared, what is a factory? You have a get factory.
The Uniswap Factory, the global data.
Yeah, so Chris, that's the Uniswap Factory contract address. When someone adds liquidity for the first time on a new pair, that's the contract that creates and deploys the actual pair contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gives the rate afterwards, right?
Yeah. So then after that, all of the trades are happening inside the pair contract, but that contract's deployed by the factory initially to make sure that it's not just deployed randomly by the user and it's going to steal everyone's money.
Yeah, I guess the follow up is that we need to follow the other large contracts on the DeFi space as well.
I think they work pretty similar to the Uniswap.
Yeah.
So if we can tackle the Uniswap, we can also copy the same method we do. It's just do a different contract address.
Yeah. So something that may be outside of the Uniswap contracts is understanding the wrapped Ethereum contract. That's very basic.
Ethereum contract. Okay.
The wrapped one, yeah. So that just Ethereum goes in and wrapped Ethereum comes out, and it's all just one-to-one. So it's a very straightforward contract. But that contract is being used by all of the sort of bridges that are sending tokens over to other networks. So if you see wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum, that's the same contract code. There's wrapped Ethereum on Polygon that's using the same contract code. And so these are good indicators of how much liquidity is being locked into different parts of the DeFi ecosystem, just because that's the Ethereum being locked in the contract, and when they're sending it to the exchange, they're unlocking the Ethereum back out and then sending it to the centralized exchange. So as it's locked in as wrapped Ethereum, it's somewhere in the crypto ecosystem. It's not going to be on the exchanges, if that makes sense. And so when someone sends Ethereum over a bridge, for example, they're technically sending wrapped Ethereum over the bridge, not actual Ethereum, and things like that. So there might be it might be valuable to be paying attention to the different wrapped tokens.
Luke, I have a pretty specific question on that. So as a liquidity provider on, let's say, Uniswap, you're required to deposit. You need a pair, so you need the two type of tokens to the liquidity pool. Now, what are the risks that's exposed to the liquidity provider? Besides, they have to hold the coin.
Okay, so the risks. Okay, so you're putting up both sides at whatever the current ratio is.
Right.
So your primary risk is obviously that ratio is going to change. If you want to be holding Ethereum long term, and you might not want to be losing it, and as you might want your liquidity shifting over to the other token, if that makes sense. You also have the issue, obviously, as it's locked in liquidity, the dollar value of Ethereum and the other token can decrease significantly elsewhere, and so you're technically losing money, even though you've got the same amount of Ethereum and you're gaining trade fees. And that's the big one, is in permanent loss, I guess. Is or your assets are locked in as liquidity, but everything's going down.
Great.
I see. Thank you.
So, Luke and Chris, thank you. Go ahead.
But
I'm sorry,
in terms of in terms of you're always going to get the same out that you put in, if that makes sense. It's just, it might be skewed.
Right. It
might
be less
towards
in
one token
actual
than the
value.
other. And it could be less in overall actual value, depending on how things are going.
Right.
Obviously, hopefully, it's up in actual value, but depending on the market cycle. But yeah.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Chris and Luke,
Bye,
thank you very
guys.
much for your time. Let's pick it up.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you very
Thank
much
you very
for
much
coming here today.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey, Erin, can you stop the recording?
Yeah.